My name is Gabriel Strickland, and for my leadership interview, I interviewed Joel Camp, the principal of South Sumter Middle School in Webster, Florida. I selected Joel for the interview because he is the leader and he leads students and staff, so I feel like his leadership is multifaceted and it impacts a lot of people on a day-to-day basis. My perception of him during the interview was he was very professional, but he was also very comfortable in his leadership role. He was very relaxed, and he was very eager to share with others and with me about his job. The key characteristics that we discussed during the interview and the four that he gave me as his top four were patience, persistence, adaptability, and focus. And he went on to explain that he had to be patient, especially with students and even with faculty members, especially when there's conflict involved. You have to be patient and you have to work with both parties to resolve the issue. His persistence is evident in his communication. He is persistently communicating with both sides, with students, with faculty, and with his fellow admin about what has to go on and what they need to do to make their school better and better for the students and a safer place given the COVID-19 restrictions now. He really stressed adaptability because he felt that it was one of the key things that he had to use each and every day is he had to adapt each and every situation, especially when you deal with middle schoolers. You have to be ready for just about anything because you absolutely have no idea what's going to come from a middle schooler at any given time. And focus was the fourth thing that he gave, and he said that it was really important for him to stay focused on his goals and his vision for the school and for the students' development as well. When I asked him after the characteristics what practices he used to ensure that he received responses from fellow staff and from students as well when he faced them with any kind of issue. He said that you have to be proactive, and so you start early and you hit the issue front and center, and you have to begin with the end in mind. So no matter what the issue is, if it's a change in curriculum or if it's an issue between two teachers, if it's an altercation between students, if it's a student that just doesn't understand, you have to start with vision and and understand where each person is coming from. And one thing that really stood out to me that he said was seek to understand and then to be understood. So, as somebody in his leadership position, he has to first understand the issues at hand and understand what's going on with the student or the teacher or the staff member, whatever. He has to understand where they're coming from so that he can address them and be understood by them so that he can connect to them. And really talked about synergy a lot and it's problem solving, just working together to solve a problem and to think as a win-win because as the principal, often he is the judge or the final say in any conflict that might arise, and so he works with them and thinks, what is something that is going to benefit both parties and what is something that's going to work for me, for the school's benefit, for both people's benefit, and another thing that he really stressed was what he called sharpening the saw. And that just means looking for new ways to improve and new approaches to take to an issue. I asked him how he saw himself as a leader and how did that compare to feedback that he's gotten from other people and do they match up. And from his self vision he said that he's pretty laid back. He seeks input from other people and he tries not to be a dictator. He really wants to work with the people and it's more of a democratic style. And I asked him based on his feedback if his peers and those that are following him felt the same about him. And he said, yeah, from what he's understood and from what people have spoken to him about, they feel relatively the same, that he is calm and level headed and he does what's best for everybody. And so I asked him, because he said he was not going to be a dictator. I said, there's certain things in a school system that have to be done. And how do you approach those dictated needs that may come down from the school board or from the district level or the state level even? And he said, I present the information as this is what we're being asked to do. This is how we're being asked to do it. And here's if there's room for us to change it to make it work better for us. Here's where there's room. Let's hear some ideas. What do you guys want to see out of this? How do you guys want to approach this? And the example he gave of one that wasn't actually applicable to being changed was temperature checks for the pandemic issues, and they have to be done for the faculty and staff by an admin in the office, an administrator. And so they can't do it in their classrooms or in their small groups. They have to take the time out of their morning to come in to the office directly and to have their temperature checked before they can go to work. And so he said, listen, this is what we have to do. It's not fun, but it's the best for our kids and to be safe. And he said that was something that he really tried to do with something that he didn't have to change. Is look, this is how we have to do it. This is the reason why, and this is why it's this way. That way, it's better for us. It's better for the students, and it's a safer and better environment for our kids to learn. I asked him about some leadership characteristics also that I thought were very important. Was communication's a huge thing for leadership, and I asked him how did the pandemic affect your communication and your leadership. And he said that as far as his leadership goes, it's changed the entire scheme of things because it's more about safety now than it is particularly the instruction and development of the students. And so it's a changed focus, and he had to adapt to be more zero tolerance and be able to, like, this is the rules, we have to follow them right now. And as far as communication goes, I asked him, did it affect the unity of the staff and the communication? And he said because they can't meet in person as much due to social distancing guidelines, it has affected their communication. And he finds that there's more errors and miscommunications in that aspect. People have to meet in their small group teachers that are working together on one group of students, and instead of meeting as an entire staff for him to address them specifically and for him to work with them. And they said that it can also even breed conflict because some people are used to working together and then they had to be broken apart, and so it's become more clique like and like a single small group participation with each other instead of everybody working together for the betterment of the students. And contact with other people, being sick puts people in severe danger of being quarantined and being out of work. And so I think he said that he had some teachers meet after hours to work on some stuff because they didn't want to stay at the school because of social distancing guidelines. So they all went to the house together and they all got quarantined because one of them actually turned out to have the virus. My perception of Mr. Camp after the interview was that he was the picture of a professional leader. He had all the right characteristics in mind, and he was working with other people, and that's where I feel that a leader really succeeds is when he works with those that he follows instead of demanding what they do. And so, as far as post interview, I feel like he is a great leader and that he does a great job. Some of the key statements that really stuck with me, the one that stuck out to me the most is seek to understand and then to be understood. And so, for me as a leader, that is the defining line between a comrade and a leader because then you understand other people and you connect with them and you feel what they feel and you think how they think and you see what they see, but then at the end of the day you also know what the final result has to be, and so you understand them and connect to them, and then you try to be understood, like this is how we have to do things, you have to do it this way. And sometimes that's hard, and so that's something that really stuck out to me is him having the versatility and being adaptive enough to understand that he has to connect with the people that he's leading, but also has to be the the leader, for lack of a better term, and the one that has to say this is how we have to do things. Unfortunately, for maybe it's an inconvenience or not, but this is what we have to do. And the other thing that really stood out to me was is sharpening the saw of reference, the looking for improvement and new approaches to unique problems, especially with pandemic or if we have students that aren't performing as well. And so just looking for new ways is something that I think is great for a leader to have. They have to constantly look for new ways to make their system better and for the people that are following them.